already. We have a couple of starter items, which we have a camera 2D just so we can zoom in close. We have a player, which has some basic movement, and our player is just a sprite and a collision shape. And we have some very basic movement. So if you want to copy this down for your player, if you don't already have a player, but for pathfinding, you probably already have a player and you just need help on the pathfinding part. So we have a simple player, and then we have a tile map, which as of now, our tile map has no collisions or navigation 2D or anything. And we need to go and we need to add navigation 2D to this tile map, because that's going to be important to pathfinding for our pathfinding node that can help us, move around. So let's think about this. We want collision shape on all of these darker squares, right? These are all collisions. So we're going to make this all with collision 2D, or with collisions. And then on this lighter gray, which these are their own tiles. I know they look like the background, but they're not. I'm actually going to add a color rect real quick just so we can kind of see the difference, so we can see it behind. As you can see, these are their own tiles. It's just like, if you see this right here, this is my tile set. It is a it's almost the same color as the background, but it is its own tile. So if we go to our tile map, this is the first thing. We need to add navigation and we need to add collision. So to do this, we need to go to our tile map over here in the inspector, our physics layer. We're going to add a physics layer, and then we're going to go to our navigation layer, and we're going to click add element, and we're going to add a navigation layer. Now if we open up our window down here and we click on tile set, we can go to whatever tile set you have. For me, it's just 2 tiles in here, but we can go to paint, select the property, physics layer, and we can just click on this. Now the darker square does have a physics layer, so it's going to have a collision. And then if we go to our navigation layer and then we add navigation to just this one, you don't want it on this one. You just want it on the ones that you want your enemy to be able to go on top of. So like the ground, this is like the wall, this is like the ground, right? So we'll do that, we'll save, and then we can go to paint, select the property, physics layer, and we can just click on this. Now the darker square does have a physics layer, so it's going to have a collision. And then if we go to our navigation layer and then we add navigation to just this one, you don't want it on this one. You just want it on the ones that you want your enemy to be able to go on top of. So like the ground, this is like the wall, this is like the ground, right? So we'll do that, we'll save, and then now if we play the game, we should have collision, and you have navigation 2D on the bottom, but you cannot see that right now, but it will show in just a minute when we have our enemy created. Okay, so now for our enemy, so we can have our pathfinding here in the game, we actually currently have 0 enemies. So we're going to create a new scene, we're going to do other node. We're going to do a character body 2D. We can name this as our enemy, and then we're going to just keep a basic enemy, just like our player, a sprite 2D. We're also going to have a collision shape, and we're also going to need some other stuff which we'll add here in just a second. Let's just make our enemy. So we'll have this, and then let's make it very small. So I'm going to scale it to like 0.1. That's the size of my player. And then we can go to our visibility, modulate, and then we can change this to like red, a simple red color, just like so. So our enemy is red. And then for our collision shape, we can make a circle, and we can make this pretty small, right? And then on our enemy up here, you see our player is classified as a grounded. That's the motion mode on our player. But our enemy is going to, our player is classified as a grounded. That's the motion mode on our player. But our enemy is going to have to be different, because it's going to have to be able to move along the side of the walls. Because if you don't do this, it's going to get stuck on the walls. It's going to try and pathfind around, but it's going to be stuck on the wall. It won't be able to move. So we need to go to a floating, and we need to do wall minimum slide equal to 0 degrees, so we can just glide against the walls smoothly, right? And then on we had to make it into a wall slide of 0 degrees. And as you can see, everything in the game timer notification. And then on our enemy, we're also going to need some other stuff. We're going to need a navigation agent. This is what's going to do all the work in our navigation. So we'll use a navigation agent 2D. And then we're also going to need a timer node. So we're also going to need a timer node. And on this timer, I'm going to go and we're going to set this to an auto start. And then on our navigation agent, we this is going to be like, so on the debug, if you want to see the line, you're going to turn this enabled on. We'll leave it on just for testing, and then we can turn it off at the end to see how it looks after. But if we save this, and then we're going to obviously need a script, so we'll create our enemy.gd script. Now a bunch of stuff is going to spawn, or is going to like already be in here. I'm going to delete it all because we don't really need it. And also I'm going to go over one more thing. So just for this video, just for the sake of this video, if we go to our collision, we're going on our enemy. So this is the character 2D. We're going to have to set the layer to 2 and the mask to 1 and 2, and then we're going to go to our player, and we're going to set the layer to 2 and the mask to 1 and 2 as well. So the 2 is going to be the enemy and the player, and then the 1 is going to be our tile set. So if we save, now we have our script. I'm also going to go to our timer node, and we're going to set the timeout to our enemy function, and we'll save that for a little bit later. But what do we need in a player to make a player? First of all, we need our speed, right? So we'll do speed equals to like 20, whatever, the speed obviously depends on however your game is set up. We're also going to create an var, or a variable for our player, and we're going to have this as an export var, and this is going to have to be our player, it's going to be name player, and it has to be a node 2D, right? So now, or it doesn't have to be a node 2D, but that's how you do it, right? So then we export. So then we're going to have another export var, and this is going to be called our navigation agent. And in our navigation agent, we're going to have this equal to our, on our scene tree, we're going to have to get our navigation agent 2D, which is over here in our scene. And then we can have this as navigation agent 2D, right? So now after those are all the variables we're going to need. Now it says something's messed up, which won't return nodes in the scene tree. Okay, yeah, this is my bad. I put an export. This has to be an on ready. Yeah, so this has to be an on ready var. Boom. Okay, now error fixed. And then we're gonna have a couple functions, or it's gonna be like 2 functions. So first of all, we need our basic physics process function. Yeah, our basic physics process function. And then instead of this just being a delta, we need this to be a float as well, because our enemy is float. The movement of our enemy is going to be classified as a float, and then we can just send this to void. And then in this function, we're going to create a variable which is going to be our direction, and this is going to be, so whatever our direction is our direction is going to be based off of our navigation agent. So this navigation agent right here is going to do all the work. It's going to find out the best path to go. It's going to find out the best way to get to our player, but we're going to have to find which direction it's telling us to go. If it's telling us to go right, left, up, down, where is it telling us to go? So we'll say to our local, so to local, and then we'll do our nav agent, which is our variable that we created up here. And then we'll say get next path position, so whatever position, which is an already made function in Godot for the navigation agent. And then we can just normalize this, right? And then we'll go, and then this is for all the movement. So we have velocity is going to equal the direction, which we just got, times our speed, which is the constant at the top of the script. And then that's all we need. And then for our player, or for our enemy to actually look like it's moving on the screen, we need to call the move and slide function, right? And that is all that we need in the physics process. So now we're going to have to be able to make the path, right? So if we go down and we make a new function, we'll just name this function something like make path, because we're gonna have to make a new path to find out what's now the best way to get to our player, right? So we'll say we'll get our nav agent, and then we'll get our nav agent, and then we'll find the target position. Target position equals our player dot global position. Global position. right? So the target position where we're trying to get to is going to be equal to our player position. Currently, we don't know what the player is. So to do this, we're going to go to our world and we are going to instance our enemy to our world scene, and then we can move him anywhere. But if we go to the inspector and we click on our enemy, you can see this is the exported variable that we have. We can assign this to anything. This is going to be our player, so we want to assign it to our player. So now we have a player, right? So this node right here, this is what it's tracking as our target. So if we go to our enemy back into the script, our player is now equal to the whatever we put into that var on the export, and then which we put in our player. And then on every single time the timer times out, we want to call our make path function, right? Because every single time this timer times out, which is going to time out every single 1 second, which we can go faster, we'll do like half a second, so it will make a new path every half a second. So theoretically, everything here should be complete, and if we were to play the game, everything should go smoothly. But normally, you know, when you make games, normally everything goes not as planned, and you can see everything does go as planned. So our enemy is a little bit slow, but as you can see, the path that is being created the enemy will go the fastest way to reach our player, and you can kind of see how the path is super delayed. So first of all, I want to go and I want to raise the speed of our player, and then I want to go to our timer node. We can go over here to our timer node and we can just like do 0.1. So now it's going to update 10 times a second, right? So now global position is equal to null. I don't know, did I just completely mess something up? I don't know what just happened, but no. Just like do 0.1. So now it's going to update 10 times a second, right? So now global position is equal to null. I don't know, did I just completely mess something up? I don't know what just happened, but okay. So I reloaded the game. I just X'd out of Godot, reloaded it, opened it back up, changed the wait time of the timer back to 1.1. Kind of fixed up the code. I put this function, the ready function here. It's not I mean, it's not technically necessary. I mean, that's just to call it just off the start. So as soon as the game starts, it's not necessary because the timer is going to go off 0.1 seconds after the game starts. But I just added that in there to make it look, because it's a ready function, right? So you call it as soon as the game starts. And then we have everything else in this entire script is the exact same. Player script, everything is the same. Everything in the entire game is the exact same. So if we play it, you see it works, and you can see how fast the thing updates, right? How fast the path updates. It updates 10 times a second. It's gonna find the path
Godot 4.2 allows you to automatically generate 2D nav meshes from objects and even use your tile map collisions for that. Making changes to navigation zones could not be easier now. Here's how to do it and what you should look out for. First, we need to add a navigation region 2D node to our scene. This will allow us to create our 2D nav mesh, used for the AI pathfinding. Create a navigation polygon, or click anywhere on the screen to get a should look out for. First, we need to add a navigation region 2D node to our scene. This will allow us to create our 2D nav mesh, used for the AI pathfinding. Create a navigation polygon, or click anywhere on the screen to get a prompt to do so. We can now draw our nav mesh zone area. Let's draw a polygon of the general area of the map. And press Bake to create it. To get the nav mesh to understand our tile map, we need to do two things first. First, let's select our tile map and nav mesh zone area. Let's draw a polygon of the general area of the map. And press Bake to create it. To get the nav mesh to understand our tile map, we need to do two things first. To understand our tile map, we need to do two things of the map. And press Bake to create it. To get the nav mesh to understand our tile map, we need to do two things first. First, let's select our tile map and make sure we have our physics layer set up. Under the tile cell asset, create a physics layer with the Add Element button. This allows us to create tiles with colliders that we can use to create our nav mesh. Open the tileset window below, select the Paint tab and choose the physics layer 0. We can paint which tile should have collisions inside here. Clicking on the tiles will play the displayed polygon at the center as the tile's collider. Let's set the whole tile as a wall and paint our obstacles. Next, we need to tell our navigation region what are obstacles. Let's expand the navigation polygon. By default, the navigation region will only look for static colliders inside its own children. Collider. Next, we need to tell our navigation region what are obstacles. Let's expand the navigation polygon. By default, the navigation region will only look for static colliders inside it. Navigation polygon. By default, the navigation region will only look for static colliders inside its own children, which is not what we want. Change the source geometry mode to group with children. This will have our nav mesh look for obstacles that are inside the group name below. And let's change the name of that group to navigation, so it looks better. Now we only need to add our tile map to the navigation group. Select the tile set, and under the Node tab, select Groups. Type Navigation and click Add. A square icon will be displayed on the tile map node now, showing that it has a group. And now we can finally bake our nav mesh. One thing to note is that the nav mesh will only consider the first drawing layer of the tile map, so adding obstacles on the layer above will have no effect. One thing to note is that the nav mesh will only consider the first drawing layer of the tile map, so adding obstacles on the layer above will have no effect. One way to overcome that is by drawing a wall on the first layer, putting the ground tile on the second layer, and finally your obstacle tile on the next one. Inside the navigation polygon, one important configuration we need to adjust is the radius. This tells us how much of a margin the nav mesh should have from the walls. If the margin is too big, we will have unwanted breaks like this. Setting this to 1 pixel, now the nav mesh will snugly fit in. But that is also not good. If the margin is too little, the chance of getting stuck in corners is very big. For tile maps, I found that